Welcome back. We've got some breaking news tonight. The White House has just suspended the credentials of CNN's Jim Acosta after he took his daily grandstanding routine a bit too far at today's lengthy press conference. It happened after he pushed away the arm of a female intern who was trying to take back the microphone when he was playing ball hog. And as you will see, he was hardly the only one attacking the president. Watch.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President.
Come on. Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question. Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
Why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him? Why do I like Oprah? What kind of a question is it?
Yeah, I'm just asking. Just curious. But the real question...
He's a comedian here. Let me tell you, it's a racist question. It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You know what? When you get bored, would you please tell me? Seriously.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders took Acosta to task, saying he never should have touched that young woman. But moments ago, CNN released a statement saying Sanders, quote, provided fraudulent accusations and cited an incident that never happened. It never happened. We all saw it. They weren't locked in a dark broom closet, you weirdos. Pull your heads out of the spot where the sun don't shine. So was the press out of line today? And does Acosta deserve this punishment? Joining me now from American Majority, where he serves as CEO and former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, Ned Ryun is here, and former senior advisor to the Hillary Clinton campaign and former advisor to the DNC, Antjuan Seawright. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be with you, Kennedy.
Hi. So, Antjuan, I will start with you because obviously the defense of Jim Acosta today is the president is the one who was belligerent and rude, and he won't answer questions, and he's trying to shut down the press, and he's trying to turn the American people against the press. Having said that, is it ever okay to put your hands on a woman, particularly a young woman who's probably college age? This is probably her first job.
I never want to downplay someone putting their hands on another woman, particularly because that is someone's daughter. I just didn't see what apparently everyone else saw about the whole putting the hands on. I did see Jim try to remove himself away from her taking the mic. I did see that. However, it was a bad day. I think it was a bad day for Trump. I think every day is a bad day when he does his press briefings because he runs away from this thing called accountability. And anytime he's pressed on any issue, particularly those issues that we know are wrong and he knows is wrong, but he doesn't want to fess up to it, it becomes very problematic.
Okay, but here's what I will say, and this is the president. The president defends himself by saying, "You have a lot of access to me." It was an hour and a half press briefing on a day where his party lost the House, and there is accountability there, and he didn't shy away from it like past presidents have.
But he was angry. He was angry, man, the entire time.
Oh, stop.
So Ned,
he was pushing back. You know what we saw on display today, Kennedy? We saw the opposition party on full display. The media has dropped all pretense. You know what I think? I think we should drop the illusion that a lot of these people are actually journalists and reporters. They're not. They're just political operatives masquerading as reporters. They're just opinionists. And this is the thing that Kennedy, I think.
Yeah, go ahead,
you know
Ned.
what? I would just like them. I want a free press. I want an honest press. And I'm not talking about being honest about the facts, because I think that's a bridge too far for many of them. I just want them to be honest about who they are and what they're doing, because they all have a very specific worldview. They're trying to drive a narrative that fits that worldview. They think that they're trying to act as though they're purveyors of truth and God, pure as driven snow. Nope, just opinion, just another guy or gal with an opinion, and I can choose to accept or reject it.
So I agree that we have to have a free press, and we have to have members of the press that hold the president or any public official accountable. That is their job. That's why it's enshrined in the First Amendment, and they require protection. And I think sometimes the president does go too far. But I will say about Jim Acosta, he's incredibly annoying. He doesn't understand decorum. And even if you think that the president's actions are beneath you, it doesn't give you license to mock them. So, Antjuan, it's got to be frustrating for members of the press who were in that room, who see Acosta pulling these stunts over and over and over again, because at some point they become indefensible.
Kennedy, I would agree with you if it was just Jim. But you saw his treatment of April Ryan. We see his treatment of other reporters just the same. That's why I opened my comments saying this is par for the course for this president, unfortunately, and now this administration, because if you see the behavior of Sarah Sanders, even other people in his press shop, they tend to repeat his behavior towards the press.
I know, but let's stop acting surprised at what the president is and how he
I'm not acting surprised. What I'm saying is
the press knows this. They know that when they pose certain questions in certain ways, and I don't think they need to treat him with kid gloves. That's not what I'm saying at all. But please don't think that you're entitled to be a total a-hole and you can just stay in a room with other people who want to ask honest questions and the public requires those answers.
I think you should do everything in decency and order, as we say in the South. However, I think the president has a responsibility to treat these people with respect and dignity. They're just trying to do their job.
It's a two-way street. Respect is a two-way street. And you know what, Kennedy? I totally agree that the press is there to be holding people accountable. They're not there to be a propaganda machine or mouthpieces of the deep state, which they've become over the last couple of years. They've become an attack machine of the left.
I don't even know if it's. I mean, I think there are people who are really trying to get facts and relay stories. I think Jim Acosta is a news actor who's just in it for himself, and I think his little displays have exhausted themselves. And I would much rather see someone from CNN and every other news organization.
What do you say about April Ryan, though, Kennedy? I mean, she's not here trying to, shine bright in the light. She's, I think, fundamentally trying to get to the bottom of to get to an answer to questions that people want, and he treats her with lack of respect. So what are you saying about that?
So maybe he's equal in the way he's disrespectful. That's neither racist nor misogynist. All right, thank you both so much. I always appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.